Hey everyone, welcome to class. It is week 3 of our semester, and this we're still in short stories. We're getting closer to the first essay. This week I'm going to go over the activities and go over some some give you some information that will help you complete this week's assignment. And everything I think that I go over in terms of the assignments are also meant to help you with your essays that you write. I'm helping you write the essays by helping you write these and complete these smaller assignments. And all that builds up into what you'll be putting together for your essays. Okay. I graded I gave you credit for your discussion posts. Now, since I have like 80 something students, I didn't write responses for all the discussion posts. Um, but I wrote down some things that I read that I thought was interesting. Justin, Justin got engaged. What? Way to go, Justin. Nicole likes The Crown, and I love The Crown. All right. I wanted to all the episodes that took place in their house in Scotland when they went hunting, or on their retreats and stuff. I wanted to go up there and hang out with the royalty up there. I was gonna put on some wide leg corduroy pants, get my golfer's hat, and go up there and drink tea. It was a great season. Um, let's see. Erica, she held a Black Lives Matter protest. I mean, that's really cool. I'm not wearing my BLM hat like I normally do, okay? But had I known her in the first place, and had I known that she was gonna hold a protest, I would have been there with my kids. Let's see. Paul, he learned to paint during the quarantine, so that's really cool. Painting is really good for stress relief. There's painting therapy, and it's used a lot to help people deal with stuff. So I hope that Paul got a sense of peace and clarity during this crazy time. Um, Faith, I wrote Faith singing. Hmm. Maybe that was about Faith. That was something that I think it was. That is something that you are envious in other people. I'm sure that was it because I wrote the same thing down because I love music and I play guitar and piano and stuff, but I cannot sing. I am no vocal quality, and not even like cool bad vocal quality. Like it's my style. I sound bad, but cool when I sing. Like no, it just doesn't even sound good at all. Kiana wrote about her future puppy that she will one day spoil and will be named Milo. She wrote about her future spoiled puppy named Milo. Or that means so either she plans on having a puppy one day. She already knows she's going to name it Milo and that she's going to spoil the puppy. Or she currently has a puppy named Milo and she doesn't have the means yet to spoil it, but she really does plan on one day spoiling this puppy. Okay, so both of those are I find funny, whichever way it is. All right, your future imagined puppy that you'll have one day named Milo, or your hopes into your hopes in currently spoiling your current dog. Grace, wow, listen, Grace, she almost check this out, y'all. Okay, she almost did 5 pull-ups. She was like really, really close to doing 5 pull-ups, okay? Because she did 1. So she's almost there. All right, she's 1/5 of the way to doing all 5 pull-ups. That's like 20%. She's done 20% of the 5 pull-ups. I mean, that's pretty awesome. Okay, way to go, Grace. High five. Wait, there you go. High finger for that one. And I read that Travis really likes The Wire, and can't blame him. The Wire is fantastic. The Wire and The Sopranos, they're up there as just top 2 revolutionizing TV shows. So that's like really awesome. Way to go. All right. So those are some discussion posts that some comments I read that I liked. Now what I'm going to do right now is that I'm going to I graded the works cited page stuff, and I had it to be quite meticulous in grading that. The school wants us to be really hard-nosed in and marking up all the little errors for MLA formatting, because they want to make sure that students really put a lot of effort into having flawless MLA formatting. Because when you go to other classes and you have to write essays, okay, your ability or inability to correctly use MLA formatting reflects upon the English department. Okay, like whether or not you ever actually understand the story of an hour, that won't ever come up in any other class. You won't be sitting in a sociology class and the teacher will ask you, "Hey, what'd you think about the story of an hour?" All right, none of that will ever pop up. But you will be in other classes being assigned to write essays. And if you are turning in poorly formatted essays, then that reflects badly on us. So we got to make sure that you really understand all the nuances of the formatting, okay? Which means that every little thing counts. So what I'm going to do is in a moment, I'm going to show you some that were incorrect, and then I'm going to fix them. Okay, so you can see that. So just give me 1 second. Okay, so some examples were, some of the documents that I graded were really close and just off by a little bit of things. Then others were just like way off. Okay, so let's look at an example of one that was off. Let's see here. There we go. Okay. So this one right here, all right, I've changed the names to everybody. It's all George Wallace. So this one right here, look, they have their heading, last name, title, 3 sources. Problem though, they're not indented correctly, and also the spacing is not correct. So first, I'm going to highlight everything to see if the paragraph is correct, if they're in the same font. So look, just when I highlight everything, okay, when this goes blank, that means that there's inconsistencies. That means that everything on this page is not the same font, and that everything on this page is not the same size. So let's just go ahead and make it all 12. Okay. So you see when I highlight it all this time, that 12 is there. That means that everything is 12. This right here means that there are different fonts in the page, in the even though it's like hard to tell. But like, look, this is Calibri. Oh, that's Times New Roman. There it is. That's the error. So we'll just pick one. Just pick one. Okay. Next, you need to look at I can see that there's a lot of extra space between the paragraphs. Between the citations. All right. Now look, this is blank, which means that there's inconsistencies here. That means in some areas, this is probably like an 8. And in some places, this is probably a 0. So I'm going to go ahead and put a 0 there. Make sure it's all the same. Okay. So then I still notice that there are these extra lines in between. Well, look, see how my cursor is blinking? That means that the person who's writing this, George Wallace, pressed enter and purposely added another space between. So I'm going to hit delete. And then I'm going to hit delete because there should be no additional lines between every single citation. Okay. Now, looking at this, I see that this is kind of confusing. It's kind of hard to see. So what I need to do is I need to make sure that I indent the bottom subsequent lines after this included in each citation. Okay. Only the first line of each citation should be aligned all the way to the left. So I click at the end of the line and I hit the tab button. Okay. That indents the next line. And then I go to the end of this line, hit tab, and it indents it. Okay. So we do it again. Okay, and so then same here, tab, end of this line, tab. Oopsies. Now look, some of this is tedious. It is tedious, but it's what we do. Okay? If you want a good grade, that's what you do. What you do, okay? What you do. Alright, so there you go. That's how it should look. That's how this one should be fixed. Okay, let's go to the next one. Okay, so now let's look at the next one. Alright, this George Wallace. Okay, what I can see is that the citations got centered probably when this was centered. When the title was centered, the rest of them got centered. So let's just go ahead. I have to fix the obvious things first. Line left. Okay. Okay. We're missing something here. George Wallace. My name. English 1102. Ah, the due date. We're missing the due date. So January. I don't remember what day it was. Say 20th, doesn't matter. 2021. Okay? We have this extra space between paragraphs. So delete. Delete. Okay. So this one, for some reason, is starting right here. Look, see this little hourglass looking icon? This tells you where your letters are starting on the page. When I click on this line, it goes here, as it should. For some reason, when I hit on Bayless, it goes there. I don't know why that is. But you can put your mouse on the bottom, that little bottom rectangle, hold it down, and move it. So it's in line with everything else. Okay? Alright, this line is indented. Good. This line needs to be. So go to the end of the previous line, and hit tab. Boom, indented. Alright, Montgomery. We have here the citation. I need to go at the end of this line, hit tab. Alright. Indented, indented, plus. Well, here we go. And then same thing with this last one. Rawlinson. You have a line that comes next that needs to be indented. Plus, it needs to be indented. Okay. And let's make sure it's all the same fonts. I'm highlighting it all. Okay. Fonts here, the numbers there. That means that it's all equal. 0, 0, double. Good. Okay, so that one's fixed. And I think I had one more here. Let's see. That one's good. I don't mind showing the names of the people whose are good. Alright, so that's that. Okay, those are two of them that I fixed. If you don't understand, I tried to write comments on yours to tell you why you got it wrong. Okay, so if you need to, if you can't find my comments or you don't understand, you can email me, ask me, and I'll send you some personal notes. Okay. Okay, so let's look at our announcements. Here, let's see here, lessons. Go under lessons. We are still in lesson 2. Okay. You were supposed to have read the story of an hour. Story of an hour. Okay. Let's see. And then you needed to complete the discussion board. And then you also need to do the independent novel submission. So if you click on discussion board, go down to discussion 1, reading discussion questions on Cage opens the story of an hour. Answer one of the following sets of questions in your initial post, then respond to 2 peer posts. So you pick one chunk. There's a chunk of questions, okay? So there's a chunk. Read it through, pick a chunk that you feel pretty good about answering, all right? And then you have to use a secondary source, which is an outside source, which is not just the story itself. It has to be an outside source. So before you do this, you have to make sure that you read the story, which I mean, most of you did because you turned in work about it, but that you also understood it. Okay. Now, if you go back to my announcements, I did post here, right here. Okay. This is a YouTube lecture that I made. So in this video recording, I go over Story of an Hour in detail. Now, this is not required to watch because I've kind of changed the things we do in this course than when I did 11-2 last year. So I talk about some things in here that like I make a relation to the story, to another story called The Adulterous Woman that I had my class from last year read. Okay, so that doesn't really apply to you. But when I actually get into explaining the story itself, like here, then this might actually help you to kind of understand what's happening. It's pretty in-depth analysis of the story. It's 20 minutes long to go through it. I highlight it. I talk about some important stuff. I explain the symbolism. All right. So if you want to watch this, I think that would be great. I think you would really learn a lot about the story and the depth of it. But it's not required that you do that because, just because. Okay. All right. So you have to, let's see, discussions. Okay. So when you go here, click on discussion 1, and then you create a thread, and you put your name as a subject, and then you write your paragraph. Okay. Answering a chunk. Let's see here. Answering the questions from one of these. Okay. But don't answer them like a series of, like it shouldn't read like you're answering questions. Okay. All these questions are grouped together in a chunk because these are things that you can talk about all in the same paragraph. All right. So you need to integrate your answers to these questions in a way that sounds like a complete paragraph. All right. That doesn't feel like you're just answering questions, and that it should be written in a way where I don't have to have known what questions you are answering. That the way you write the paragraph is written for someone who doesn't have the questions in front of them. Okay? And so you are integrating all these things into one concise, long paragraph. Okay? So find the chunk that you, and like this one right here, okay? There might be some things that you don't include. There might be small little parts, all right, that you don't include. You don't have to necessarily answer every single question in your response. I'm not going to be like looking at the question and then looking at your response. I'm going to be reading your responses just as they are and giving you a grade on how well they are written. So I'm grading you for punctuation, complete sentences, all that sort of stuff. That it makes sense, that it's organized well, that you're not using drop quotes, that you are integrating quotations correctly, all that kind of stuff. Okay? And that you use an outside source, a secondary source. All right? Now, in terms of a secondary source, just to remind you, go back to lessons, and you go back to lesson 1, and you go down to LibGuides. You go to Galileo and more. All right, you don't have to just use Literary Reference Center. You can use any of these, okay? You can just go, if you want to just use Galileo in general, you can go to Galileo in general, all right? You don't have to use just Literary Reference Center Plus, or Bloom's Literature, or BiblioGuides, okay? You can use whatever it is that you want to use to find something to help you. Okay, so like, you can write, see, I'd already kind of done some stuff here. Story of an hour. But you do want to make sure that you get full text. All right, full text. Um, 1790. I don't need no anything from 1790. The book story wasn't even published by then. All right, 1896. I'm going to do academic journals. All right, It's a Man's World, re-examining the female perspective. Oops. In the story of an hour. Okay, Man's World. That might be a pretty good source when talking about, let's see. What view of marriage does the story present? The story was published. This time does it only represent attitudes towards marriage. All right, that source might work here pretty well, since it's about gender, all right, and history. Okay, so I might read that and see that it does talk about something about old time marriages. Okay. All right. So there's a lot. Time and gender. Once again, this is also about time period. So, but there are there's a lot of articles just on regular Galileo. Okay. So you got to find an outside source to read and to quote. Okay. Now, I want to go over some things. I'm not going to go over everything in this PowerPoint, but I did this PowerPoint that I'm discussing right now. It is posted in Unit 2, Lessons, Lesson 2. Go down to Week 3 PowerPoint. Okay. So some of this is review about how to use quotes. Okay. But some of it also, though, is kind of new that I want you to incorporate this week. Okay. So I recommend downloading the PowerPoint and going through all of it. Okay. So right. Quotes. We've discussed what this is. Direct quotes. Things that are actually said. Okay. Okay, punctuated quotes. So this is something that I've noticed that some people need some help with, okay? So the author's exact words go inside the quotation marks. And then if you notice the period, if you are ending a sentence with the quotation marks, the end punctuation goes inside of the quotation mark. It's inside. Period, and then quotation mark. All right. So exclamation point. So the end punctuation, period, question mark, exclamation point, goes inside the last quotation mark. When the person who says it, when the speaker comes after a direct quote, use a comma to separate the quote from the verb. Attribution is the verb that indicates who said it. So here it is, comma, quotation mark, replied Bob. Now, if a question mark relates to the sentence and not the quote, then place it at the end of the sentence, outside of the quotation marks. But if the quote itself is a question, then you would include that question inside of the quotation marks. Okay? So like saying, what kind of moron says, I'm super duper cool? That question is not within the phrase, I am super duper cool. That question refers to the first couple words of the sentence. What kind? Okay? But if I said something like, when Macbeth asks, to be or not to be, okay, then you could have a question mark there and then have the quotation marks, because it's a question that the character is asking inside that quote. All right, so we use single quotation marks to indicate a quote inside of a quote. So if you quote somebody who's talking about the character from Story of an Hour, and that character is saying a quote, then you have this indicates that this is a quote inside of a quote. And at the very end of the sentence, you have 3 quotation marks. All right. I don't care about that. Okay. This is very important for when you write the Story of an Hour. Use quotation marks to indicate the title of smaller works, like an article, an essay, a short story, song, poem, or speech. So when you write the title Story of an Hour, it should not be in italics. It should be in quotation marks only, just quotation marks. So like in his essay, potatoes are yummy, Joe Smith argues. And so you use italics for larger works, such as a book, magazine, album, play, film, or long poem. Okay. All right, we've talked about integrating quotes. I did that last week, okay? So I'm not really going to focus on that. This is just a review. You should look at this yourself, all right? And make sure that you get it. Now, this week, when you are going to use a author's work, when you are writing about, when you're quoting Chopin, or when you are quoting the person that you are researching, okay? This is the week that I'm going to, in your paragraph, that I'm going to grade you on citing your source, okay? When you quote, you need to include the author's last name. All it is a comma, author's last name, and if there's a page number, provide the page number. If there is no page number, don't include it. Just hit period, okay? So if you're quoting your research, or you are quoting the story from this point forward, I want you to put it's called a parenthetical citation at the end of the quote. So it's just a parentheses, the last name, and the page number, if there is one. Okay? If you mention the author's name in your sentence, then you do not need to include it in parentheses. And if you mention the author's last name and there are no page numbers of the PDF that you downloaded, then you just have nothing, okay, at the end. If you're not sure how to do this, you can email me an example of what you're doing, and I can say, yeah, that looks good, or no, you got it wrong, okay? So after you have a quote, you have to have in parentheses the author's last name and the page number, if you know the page number. Okay, those are absolutes, and that's it. So like, all you're doing is writing a nice, well-written response to a chunk of questions. And you're not writing it so it sounds like answers to questions. You're writing it like as if it's a unified response. It's one paragraph discussing the main ideas of these questions. Okay? I am not grading you that you answer every single question, but that you have a analytical, in-depth analysis of the story. Okay? And that all fits in one paragraph. And it's a long paragraph. And you have quotes in that paragraph from the secondary source. And you have cited it correctly. And that you have punctuation correctly. And that you have periods where they go. And you have commas where they go. And you have capital letters. And all that. Okay? Now the last thing you have to do this week is the independent novel submission. At this point, everyone should have had a novel that they found that they're going to read. A novel that tells a story. It can be fiction or nonfiction. Okay? Like I'm reading this book, Angela Davis. Okay? This book is a memoir. It tells a story. It has really good themes. But I would not be able to write about this book because it was published in 1974. Okay? Now, another novel, though, that I'm reading, that I've read, Cast a Shadow. This was published. This one's fiction. It's a narrative. Tells a story, and it was only published last year. I could write about this one. So you need to find a book that you're going to read, and you need to click on independent novel submission, and you need to answer the questions about the book. Okay? You don't have to have already read the book because you have all semester to read it. You're just finding the book that you want to read. Okay? You might not have even bought the book yet, but you plan on reading it. That's it. Okay. All right. So that's it for this week. Those are your 2 assignments. You're writing one really good paragraph. The paragraph should be awesome, and it should be lengthy, and it should be grammatically correct, and it should have citations in it, and it should have quotes in it, and they should all be integrated correctly, and there should be no drop quotes, and punctuation should be correct. Review over the PowerPoint that I posted that you saw, okay? And try to apply all the information that you've learned up to this point. Okay? And email me if you have any questions. I hope all is good. I'll see you later.